Welcome back, everybody, to the channel. So, week 3 just concluded. So, I'm going to talk about tonight's games that just happened, the Monday night games, and then we're going to go back to Thursday and then Sunday and do recaps of every game because a lot of content out there. They might recap a few of their favorites, but they won't go through every single one. And I kind of want to do a deep dive of every single one. Week 3 was crazy. Not a week to bet on games. I made that mistake, but so I went 6-10 this last week. I did terrible. It's the worst that I've done. El Jefe went 10-6, and Brown went 11-5. Our total records right now, I'm 24-24. I probably shouldn't be riding some of the teams that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna stick with my pick. Probably shouldn't keep doing that. Brown's doing the best at 28-20, and El Jefe right behind him, 27-21. I'm in last place. Not looking good. At least I don't have a losing record. Not yet. Okay, so tonight's games, we'll start with the first one. It was in Tampa, Philly versus Tampa. Basically what happened was, like, rain started coming down. I think it was sometime in the second quarter. But early on it was a defensive battle, and then eventually Philly started finding their rhythm. Tampa couldn't really run the ball. Here's my thing with Tampa is they don't have good running backs. Like Rashad White, I think is the guy's name. I don't even think he's okay. I think he's like good enough to be your second, third string running back, but he's not a starter, and they have to start him. And they don't have a good O-line for run blocking. That's kind of why they couldn't run the ball last year either. So they just keep doing that. So I noticed that they got down to the goal line, and Troy Aikman kept saying that, well, you have 4 tries. Why don't you just run the ball? And like they got stopped immediately. And it's like, that's why you don't run the ball at the goal line, because it's not. You haven't been able to make that work for, I don't know, the last 2 seasons, basically. Baker played okay, had a touchdown, but also, threw a few picks. I don't think his picks were that terrible, but Jalen Hurts eventually started picking up his rhythm a little bit, but although he had some turnovers as well, I don't think anyone really played amazing, but basically Philly just has more overall talent. That's why I think we all picked them to win the game. For Tampa, I don't know. You're still looking good. I still think they're the best team in that division. Some people think it's the Saints. Some people like Falcons, whatever. But then moving on, we had the Bengals hosting the Rams. Now, that was a close game, and although the Bengals took like a 10-point lead, I mean, there were some turnovers there that Stafford, a lot of people think that Stafford's super turnover prone. He tries things that a normal quarterback wouldn't try because a normal quarterback couldn't do a lot of the things he does. I think once Cooper Kupp comes back, this offense is going to look a lot better. The thing that was the deciding factor of this game, because the Bengals' offense was less than mediocre, but they ended up, getting the points when they needed to. But it was really the fact that the offensive line for the Rams could not hold up against the defensive front of the Bengals, especially the tackles. They couldn't hold up against Hubbard and Hendrickson. I think it's the guy's name, Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, yeah. Those guys just were feasting all night, and then I know like the safety got in on a blitz, and Stafford got beat up a lot. In my mock draft that I literally, I can't wait for this stuff. As soon as the game's over, I'm like, all right, let me mock and see like where these teams are falling and who they would get. I'll get to it, but basically the Rams would take a tackle, and they would take the second best tackle that's coming out in the draft. So, but yeah, overall, what to take from those games, like both of these games, defenses are looking pretty good. I think all 4 of the teams that played actually have a pretty solid defense. But yeah, offenses are still finding their way. Joe Burrow's dealing with that calf. I think that's part of the reason why they're struggling a little bit. The Rams, I think it's literally just if they could hold up longer for Stafford, I think you give Stafford even decent weapons. If he has enough time, he'll find them. So that's, I think, as simple as it comes down to. Some people think that Stafford's like washed and they should try to trade him and move off him. If I'm the Rams, Stafford is, I wouldn't call him once in a generation arm talent, but I would say like a Matthew Stafford might come along like once every like 5, 6, 7 years. And unless you're that team that drafts him, like some people think I'm crazy with this Matthew Stafford take, but he has supreme arm talent. Like, not only just like I can get a ball there, but like I can get a ball fast. He fits a ball into windows that people are like, that's crazy that he fit that in. And he can be extremely accurate. Now, like I said, he tries things that maybe he shouldn't always try, but Stafford's not, I think because he came out 4 years after Rodgers, so I think Stafford's 35, 36, something like that. I could look that up, but if I'm Stafford, you finish out your career with the Rams. That way you basically had like about, 10, I think it was like 12 years with the Lions, maybe 13, and then you try to do like 7 with the Rams. I think that would be, pretty good for a career. So I don't think the Rams, I've heard some people just say they should blow up the whole thing. They've already pretty much done that, and they've just kept their best players. It's kind of like, think about what the Chiefs did. Look at the roster that we had in 2019 for that Super Bowl team, and look at what we have now. The only guys that are still there are Mahomes, Butker, Chris Jones, and Travis Kelce. And I might be missing maybe one person, but I think that's it. I think everybody else is different. So what I'm saying is, over a couple years, that's what happens. You overhaul the roster around your star players, and that's what the Rams have done. They still have Aaron Donald, still have Stafford, still have Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua looks like a legit guy. I like some of the other guys that they've drafted, but like Avila, the guard. But basically, all you need is a little bit more protection for the Rams, and I think everything else can take care of itself. Raheem Morris seems like a solid defensive coordinator. Maybe he gets a head coaching job again, but yeah, overall, I don't think your defense is playing bad. I don't think they're letting you down, and I think as far as offensively, like I said, give Stafford some time, and I think he'll find people. He just needs a little bit more time, and tonight he couldn't get it. Philly, Tampa, basically if I'm Philly, you're 3-0. You started to look a little bit better. A.J. Brown's happier with the amount of catches that he got, targets that he got. Swift looks great, and I honestly, he's looked even better than he looked in Detroit, and he was a good running back in Detroit. Not great, but he was good. On this Philly team, with the amount of weapons and the things you have to worry about and how good the offensive line is, yeah, that was a smart move. I don't really like it for Detroit that they got rid of him. I would have liked Swift to say your starter and then have Gibbs as your backup and kind of mentor him a little bit. But I guess Detroit didn't want to wait. I don't really think they got great compensation for Swift. I think they got like a late pick. But anyway, yeah, Philly looks loaded. And like I said, some people are worried that, they're 3-0, but the games haven't been that dominant. I'm like, these guys didn't get reps in the preseason, so this is them getting their reps now. And yeah, I think Philly's the best team in the NFL, even better than San Fran right now. And it's mainly because I know Jalen Hurts can play even better than what he's already played. He also was dealing, I think, with an illness tonight, and he still played regardless. Like I said, and if you're Tampa, what you should do is, like, people are already, because they lost tonight, they're like, well, Baker had turnovers, this is why you got to get somebody else. If you could bring in, like, if I'm Tampa, and let's say they have a really good season, but let's say, for whatever reason, you're not able to draft a quarterback in the draft. Like, just nobody... They might take, like, a guy, like a flyer on and be like, all right, but maybe the guy's not ready to start right away. I either would bring Baker back, or, like I've always said, if you can find a better quarterback, go for it. But guys that are better than Baker Mayfield, I'm sorry to tell you, but they don't grow on trees. Like, if Kirk Cousins is available and the Vikings draft a quarterback and they kick him out the door, yeah, I would, as of right now, I would ditch Baker for Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is better. But there's a lot of guys that aren't. Like, I don't think Derek Carr is better than Baker Mayfield. Sorry, I just don't. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion. Anyway, all right, so let's... Oh, and just as far as Tampa's weakness overall tonight, their defense was fine. I don't think their defense is the problem. I think it was they can't run the ball. And because they can't run the ball, they can't have the proper balance. So if I'm Tampa, I mean, you'll look at my mock draft. I'll at least share it. But I think Tampa, really what they need is like a better running back, and then they need some better offensive linemen. And I don't hate their offensive linemen, but they need some better guys. And yeah, maybe a better tight end, because that tight end that they have, I don't think he's anything special. I mean, you have your two wide receivers, that's good, and then you got some defensive pieces, so just build around that. No need to reach for a quarterback. All right, so let's go on. So let's backtrack. So let's go to Thursday night. So that was Niners-Giants. San Fran basically did what we thought they would do. Giants were short Saquon Barkley. I think they were down both of their tackles, I think. But the Giants, they kind of made it close. At one point, it was 17-12, I think. But San Fran basically was in control of this game the whole time. McCaffrey looked good. San Fran, that was about, I would say, a comfortable, smooth win where you don't feel like you had to that's the great thing about the 49ers is Debo got touches. Kittle got going a little bit, which was nice to see. McCaffrey got his. Ayuk didn't even play, but they ended up, not needing him. There's a bunch of different guys that can take over and basically just get you points. And they're such a balanced team. Defense did their job. Nothing, they didn't really allow much from the Giants at all. So overall, it's a solid win. If I'm the Giants, you had a tough stretch. You beat Arizona, who you were supposed to beat. You barely beat them, but you beat them. And you lost to the two teams you're probably supposed to lose to. You're not better than Dallas, and you're not better than San Francisco. Is what it is. If I'm the Giants, this is kind of what you were going to be initially. I'll predict the next games anyway, just to knock these out. I mean, I'll predict them once I get done with these. Okay, and then so I'm just going to go through the noon games. So we had Titans at Browns. I was still believing. I've been high on the Titans because I think they have something. This is kind of, I guess, what the critics were saying. I know Brown's not high on the Titans. He thinks they're going to suck this year. This kind of proved his point. I know Cleveland has a good defense, but 3 points, I think they didn't even get over 100 yards of offense. That's bad. Tannehill didn't play well. That's another thing. The Titans, Skoronski, I think, was out for this game. If he had been in, he probably helps. But at the same time, the Titans need more offensive line help because they could not block anything. I mean, Myles Garrett was just licking his lips, just being like, oh, this is just, sweet for me. But it wasn't just him. Other guys were getting involved. And yeah, Tannehill had no time. Derrick Henry couldn't get going. They stopped the run pretty well. Literally nothing went right for the Titans that day. For Cleveland, I know Deshaun Watson had a bounce-back game. Looks good. Here's my take on the Browns. You do have talent, but I wouldn't say you have a stacked roster. You have Amari Cooper, and you have Njoku, who is a good body for a tight end, but he's still not a great tight end. Doesn't put up a whole lot of numbers. I think he has a problem getting separated. He's more like a... He reminds me of what Antonio Gates was the last 5 years of his career, where it's he's a big body, you could throw up to him and maybe he could catch it, but he's not very mobile. And Njoku to me is not very mobile. Maybe Browns fans would disagree, but he's not this amazing tight end. Everyone looks at him and goes, wow, that's a big dude for a tight end, and occasionally he catches something, but overall not that spectacular. So if I'm the Browns, you have Amari Cooper. If Nick Chubb can come back, that gives you hope that you're still stable at running back. You still got Kareem Hunt and this Ford guy, but everywhere else, I think you need to start, moving some pieces and figuring some stuff out. I'm not sold on Elijah Moore. I think they took one of the Tennessee wide receivers because I know the Giants took Hyatt, and I think Tillman, I want to say, is on the Browns, which I liked him in the draft, but we'll see with that. Their offensive line's solid. Maybe they could use one or two guys to kind of help out, but overall, their offensive line's solid, and their defense looks like they got the pieces. So, yeah, what I was getting to is with Deshaun, this is the best that he's looked. He's still, to me, I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I just don't. I do think he's better than Baker. He's got a stronger arm than Baker. He, at his best, is more accurate. He's taller than Baker. He's more athletic than Baker. So, yeah. But it's not by much. At this point, right now in their careers, I don't think Deshaun Watson is that much better than Baker. But he is. He is better. So, the way I look at it is right now, I think the Browns if the playoffs start today, they're in the playoffs. So, that's good for you. And if you can get some momentum, get some stuff building, but they don't when you don't have the better quarterback, you need a better roster to make up for that deficiency. The problem is Mahomes and Andy Reid have been the Chiefs defense, Spagnuolo, all of them doing their jobs. They've been so dominant the last couple of years that it's almost not mattered that the Chiefs are top heavy and they haven't had a great roster. Now the Chiefs look like they're more balanced, where we got guys like Nick Bolton, McDuffie's coming along. Karlaftis might be getting better on offense. Maybe some of these young guys like Rice looks like he might be a good receiver. So basically what I'm trying to say is that that gap of the Chiefs not having a great roster in the AFC, that might be dwindling. So they might be getting a better roster. So instead of people just thinking of them as this top-heavy team, I'm not saying we're there yet, but I'm saying we might end up being closer eventually to something like the Eagles. But yeah, if you're the Browns, you have to win these games. Chiefs, if the playoffs start today, I got the Chiefs as the 2 seed, the Browns would be the 7 seed. The Browns going into Arrowhead, they're going to lose that game more than likely. The way you would beat the Chiefs is you got to have a better roster than them. And right now, if I'm Cleveland, unless maybe if you can improve from Deshaun Watson, I honestly, like I said, we talk about Kirk Cousins being on the move. If I'm the Browns and this season ends up being a failure, I don't know who you would trade Deshaun Watson to because I don't know who would want to take that contract. But if I get Kirk Cousins, I'd replace Deshaun Watson with Kirk Cousins. People might think that's crazy to say, but he's not going to be hated in the locker room. People actually like Kirk, especially at that quarterback documentary. And yeah, I think Kirk is better and more consistent than the crap that we've seen from Deshaun Watson. The reason the Vikings are losing, you could say, man, Kirk should have made one or two more plays. I get it, but he's not the reason they've been losing. turnovers, a lot of fumbles that are not his fault. But anyway, we'll get to them later. But yeah, Browns looked good, did your job at home. And like I said, Deshaun Watson, if you can keep this up, you guys can make the playoffs and be something. All right. The next game, I think it was, Falcons at Lions. Lions won 20-6. Lions had a few trick plays that worked, looked good. Sam Laporta caught a long touchdown. And he's looking like a good tight end for them, like really good. And this is part of the reason why I was high on the Lions. They drafted a lot of young players that they had to hit. Looks like Jack Campbell, that linebacker, is hitting for him. Sam Laporta's hitting for him at tight end. Gibbs, we still need to see a little bit more, but he had like 80 yards of rushing, so he looks good. I think the Lions, like, they are, the next up-and-coming team that's just basically going to have a loaded roster where it's like a bunch of young guys, youthful energy, and then they're just going to basically start winning a lot. And I think this might be the year where they start winning a lot, but that roster, I think, is just going to prove because everybody's young and talented for the most part. Aiden Hutchinson, he's that beast, man. But yeah, the Falcons, Desmond Ridder, this is one of the games where it's like, yep, you chose to roll with Desmond Ridder. This is what you get, 6 points of offense. And it's not like the Lions have this amazing shutdown defense. I thought they were going to have better defense this year, but like Seattle dropped, 37 on them, I think. So yeah, Atlanta. I think Atlanta got lucky with the 2 wins that they got the first 2 weeks. You got to face a Green Bay team with Jordan Love that's inexperienced, and I do think give him a couple weeks, Jordan Love will, like, if they were to replay that game, like I said, in Week 10, I think Jordan Love would pull that off and win. And then Week 1, you face Carolina against Bryce Young, who's struggling. If Atlanta would have faced the Andy Dalton-led Carolina team from 2 days ago, I guess yesterday, I think they lose that game. I think Andy could put up enough points that it could outmatch Atlanta, and he wouldn't make some of the mistakes that Bryce Young made, and he wouldn't be as susceptible to hits and wouldn't be constantly running out of the pocket as much. I'm not too impressed with Atlanta. I'm giving their props for the fact that they did get 2 hard-fought wins, but I don't think they're going to stick around in like the playoff picture. But I do think Detroit is legitimate, and I do think we're going to hear from them at the end of the season. That's pretty much it for that one. Next one, Saints at Packers. So the biggest story from this one is that Derek Carr got hurt. He landed on his shoulder. We have found out it's an AC sprain, I believe. I'm not a doctor, but here's how I look at it. Well, let's give the Packers props. They were down 17-0 in the fourth quarter. They come back. They win 18-17. They did a smart play where when they cut it to, it was like 9-17, they went for 2, because going for 2, like if they don't get it, it's still an 8-point game. It's still 17-9. So it's like, all right, well, we're still only down by 1 score. If they do get it, now all you need is a touchdown, and if you kick the extra point, now you are in the lead. Some people question that. I like that decision. I think more teams should go for 2 points because of the fact of if you can tying. People act like it's not a dangerous thing. It is dangerous because then you leave it up to a coin toss in overtime. Some fluky thing happens. If you're on defense, you got a blown coverage. Some guy scores. On the opposite side, if you start with offense, maybe you guys just sputter. Something happens. Some guy misses a block, fumble, or an interception because the quarterback didn't have enough time. Anything could happen. So I don't like leaving that stuff to chance. If someone tells you could try to be on, I think it's the 2-yard line where they start, and you could try and score, and if you get this, you're more than likely going to win the game, I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm going to take that chance, especially if you know that you're still within 1 score if you don't get it. I think that tells you a lot about how confident you are in your offense. And from what I can tell, Jordan Love may not be amazing as far as like driving the whole length down the field from what I've seen, but if you can get him in the red zone, he seems like he's extremely comfortable in the red zone. Like, he knows how to operate there because he's not trying to bomb down the field all the time. He does have a decent arm, pretty good arm, but he knows how to operate within the red zone. So I really like what I'm seeing there. Props to him for coming back. Some people, I guess Saints fans were saying that, if Derek Carr would stayed healthy, they win. Maybe you do. But in my opinion, Jameis got them in field goal position. It was that kicker that missed it, which, at first, I was like, oh, why did the Saints just be like, hey, you can have Will Lutz, Sean Payton, that's fine. And yeah, I don't know who this guy is, so when you bring in some random kicker I've never heard of, I'm like, I got to see him make some good kicks. And that's a crucial one where it's like a normal kicker makes that because it was only, I think, a 40-yarder, 47, I think. So, yeah, that was not good. For the Saints, it's probably a little bit of humble pie that, because here's what I've been saying this whole time. People have been on the Saints to win that division. They do have a talented roster. That defense looks really good. When because Kamara's got one more game he's got to sit, and then after that he comes back. That running game's probably going to look a lot better. You have decent receivers, pretty good receivers. The problem is your quarterback position is not consistent. Derek Carr, I don't hate the guy. I think he's fine, but he's not. I don't think he's even in the top half of quarterbacks for me. And he gets treated like this, like top 10 quarterback sometimes, and he's really not. And I'm excited for Jameis. I hope Derek. This sounds bad. I don't want Derek Carr to be like permanently injured or even out for the season, but getting Jameis the game, I like that. I want to see what that looks like because I'm rooting for Jameis. I really like the guy. And I felt like he kind of got screwed because 2 years ago he started 5-2, and it was Sean Payton's last year, and then he got hurt, and then they went with I think they went with Taysom Hill, and then the following year they signed Andy Dalton, and then Jameis got benched, and then Andy just took over. And Jameis has more upside than Andy. It's just Andy's more consistent, doesn't make as many consistent turnovers, but anyway, yeah, hope Jameis. Honestly, to me, there's not that big of a drop-off from Derek Carr to Jameis. Derek Carr is better. I'll give you that. He's more accurate, slightly more consistent, but Jameis has a higher upside. So, interested to see how that looks. I'll be rooting for him more than likely. Got to see who they play. But, yeah, for the Packers, good for Jordan Love. They won their home opener. You just keep stacking these wins because, like I said, I've been impressed with his talent, but I do need to see more before I start picking the Packers every week or whatever, but they do look good, and I think Christian Watson and Aaron Jones both didn't play coming into week 4. Oh, they play on Thursday night. They play Detroit. I don't know if they're going to turn around that quickly. They might sit out again, but this Detroit team's coming, and it's a divisional game. It's really important, so if I am those guys, I'm going to try really, really hard to play because I think you're going to need them. Okay, next game was the blowout of the weekend, basically, or one of them, because there was really 2 big ones. Well, 3, actually. So, Dolphins were hosting the Broncos. I picked the Broncos in this one just because I've been high on the Broncos all year. Like, I picked them to make the playoffs, and I was like, I'm going to roll with them. I think they can, come back, fight hard. And they did the opposite. 70-20. Now, everyone's already talked about this game like crazy, talked about what needs to happen. So, the bottom line is, let's give the winners their credit first. It is kind of stupid how obvious it is that you want fast players on your team and how effective that can be. And, I think when we think of let's talk about receivers. When we think of great receivers in history, yeah, there's Jerry Rice. He was never the fastest, but he was, lightning quick out of his break as far as and he knew exactly how to run. He ran a perfect route. And Jerry was just smart, savvy, but Jerry was tough enough to take hits and all that kind of stuff. We think of Randy Moss, Terrell Owens. Bigger receivers that could take hits. I mean, Randy Moss was like a weird kind of fast where it's like, you don't look at him and go, that tall guy is going to be the one that's super fast. But you watch any interview of a guy that tried to cover him, they'd be like, yeah, Randy was extremely fast. What are you talking about? Like, Randy just glided. I've never seen someone run fast without making it look difficult at all. He just, Tyreek Hill chops his feet really fast. You're like, yeah, I can see how, he's just little roadrunner out there. Randy would just glide. And you're like, how's that guy running 20-something miles an hour? I don't get it. But anyway, and maybe it wasn't exactly 20. I don't know. I'm not expert on the times. But anyway, it is crazy how awesome they are. Jalen Waddle didn't even play. That's crazy. That how do you pronounce his name? Akane? I don't know. Achane? I think it's Achane. I think is how he pronounces it. But anyway, that guy, great. Everyone's gonna try to pick him up in fantasy. I get it. But anyway, yeah, another quick guy. They broke down how fast these guys are, and they all can run over 20 miles an hour, which is crazy. So Tua looked really good. He's still looking good. Here's been my thing with Tua the whole time. If you can stay healthy, I'd love to see you succeed. I got to see you do it throughout the whole season because the moment where I was sold on Tua was as far as talent, was last year against the Ravens. I think he threw for 6 touchdowns. Crazy. Lit them up. As soon as I saw that, I go, okay, I got no questions about your talent, your skill level, you being able to dissect a defense, being able to read things, your accuracy, being able to get guys the ball. I mean, we make a little joke about his arm talent that sometimes it comes and goes as far as he doesn't have the strength to always push the ball down the field. He makes it work, man. I don't know what to say, but if a guy's running a route and Tua has to get it 30 yards down the field, 40 yards down the field, he'll get it there. It just may not always look the prettiest, but he'll get it there. So props to him. Like I said, you will truly see me jump on the Tua bandwagon whenever he actually finishes the season. When he finishes the season and he hasn't reverted to playing like crap, Tua, you will have my utmost respect, and I'll be like, yeah, and I'll rank you properly. As of right now, I still got to see you finish the season because that's been our concern. For the Broncos, A lot of people are killing Sean Payton for this. It's tough. And he did dig himself a bit of a hole with the amount of crap that he was talking. And, just this boastful attitude of like, everything's going to change once I walk in the door. We do things differently here. That's all great. But I think Colin Cowherd brought it up that, this roster, me included, I thought it was a lot better than maybe what it even is. Shannon Sharp talked about this too. That when Peyton took the job, he was like, okay, yeah, Russell had a bad year. A lot of players didn't play great, but they weren't being coached great. But I think I can basically they talked about it like Colin Cowherd talked about it as like a house where it's like, oh, I just need to, redo the walls a little bit, but the foundation's good. And it turns out maybe the foundation isn't good. Maybe you got to scrap a lot of stuff. A lot of these players on defense that we thought were great, maybe they're not. Like Patrick Surtain, I think we all agree he's great, or at least really good. But maybe a lot of these guys in the secondary aren't that great. Maybe these linebackers aren't that great. The pass rushers really couldn't get anything. It's hard. I'll be honest. It's hard to get pass rush against Miami because that ball is getting out so quick. It's like two-step drop, get it out. Two-step drop, get it out. And the only times he'll hold on the ball longer is when it's play action. And the play action works because they roll out Tua, so he's not just always standing back in the pocket to get hit. They roll him out to his strong hand where he could throw across the field, like go to the left, go to the right. But that run game is so dynamic that you can't ignore the play. Like, you have to play the run because they're just dicing you up. So it's a dynamic offense. Look, I think Mike McDaniel being a run coordinator, that's like a lost art in football because everything is so pass happy now that people. It's why the Kyle Shanahan, that way that he learned from his dad, is so crucial of just knowing how to scheme up runs. Because Miami, I don't know if anyone would say they have one of the best offensive lines. I guess they're pretty good. I know they got Armstead. I don't really know who else is on that line. I'm not an offensive line expert. But, to be able to take linemen that are, you say average at least, and go, okay, we're going to scheme up this run blocking this way, and we will just create holes. And then all you got to do, draft a guy that's fast, and everything will take care of itself. So they're doing that. They got wide receivers that are fast. I don't really know who their tight end is right now, but I don't think it matters. So I don't know, man. They're making everything work. I don't know how long this is sustainable because, you're not going to score 70 points every week, but it's been super impressive. And just to summarize with Denver, I don't think this, like Sean Payton, I think he's trying to work with everything that he can. I do think Russell Wilson can be salvaged as far as, I don't think he's this major problem on the team. Is he playing as good as he was a couple years ago? No. But is he playing, the people are trying to kill him for this loss too. And I'm like, look, some mistakes happen, but I don't think Russ is the major issue. I think the major issue is your defense isn't as good as it needs to be. And you kind of lack just explosive players. You don't have, I'm sorry, but the Williams running back, I've never been a big fan of him. Javonte Williams, I think is his name. He got hurt, but I haven't seen a whole lot from him for me to be like, oh, that's a great running back. He's just kind of a guy to me. Their wide receivers, Cortland Sutton's good. I think he's one of the lower number ones on a team, but he probably still is a number one option, maybe number two. Jerry Jeudy, it seems like he's never healthy, or you don't notice that he's out there. So maybe he's a number two at best, but probably a number three. And then Tim Patrick's never healthy. He's hurt again. And the tight ends, they got rid of Noah Fant to make the Russell Wilson trade, and their regular tight end, he's out. So they're not explosive, they're not dynamic on offense, and I think Sean Payton's trying to do the best with what he can. But also hiring Vance Joseph as your defense coordinator, maybe he had no other choice. But why wouldn't you try to get Greg Williams, your old D coordinator from Bountygate? Say what you want about the guy, but he's a really good defensive coordinator. I'd try to get him, or try to get Rex Ryan out of retirement. I think there was a rumor he tried actually in the offseason. I think he tried. But anyway, Denver's got a lot more problems. This upcoming week needs to be their get-right game. I'll get to that. But anyway, that's it for that one. Moving on. We had Chargers-Vikings. This was going to be, I think on paper, I had it written down. It's like this is the most exciting game of the week. Both teams were 0-2. Someone's O's got to go. The Chargers ended up pulling it out. I feel terrible because basically Hawkinson at the one of the last plays of the game, Kirk throws him a ball, very catchable ball. Hawkinson lets it bounce off his hands, and then a defender comes in and intercepts it, and everyone's like, Kirk threw another interception. I'm like, not every interception is the same. If you actually watch the game, it's not like Kirk was throwing reckless picks and stuff like that. His receivers are just being careless. He's got Madison who can't hold on to the ball. That guy looks as far from a number one running back as you can get. I know he got some rushing yards this week, but I'm sorry. Like, I used to like the guy. I thought he was a really good backup running back, and now I'm like, you are not number one material. You're just not. So the Vikings need a lot of things. They need an actual starting caliber running back. I know they traded for Cam Akers. I think right now they have two number two running backs. They don't have a true number one. So running back by committee. Hawkinson, I think he's making the most money of any tight end, and he was having a pretty decent game, but he just has these crucial mistakes. I think he fumbled in the game. He has drops. So, if you're a Vikings fan, I'm sure you're like, yeah, we agree with you. Justin Jefferson had a pretty good game. He had, I think he went for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Maybe not as much. I thought he did. But, yeah, I think with the Vikings, Addison looks like he's a solid number 2 wide receiver. He didn't have a touchdown in this game, but I don't think Kirk, Jefferson, and Addison, I think are, like, that's your pieces on offense that you like. Everything else kind of needs to be worked out. Their offensive lineman, I know Christian Darrisaw is a good lineman. Aside from him, I think everything else needs work. So the thing that I'm thinking is going to happen is that the Vikings, if they have a low enough pick, if they can't turn this around, the Vikings will take a quarterback, and then Kirk Cousins will be on his way out the door. And, the Vikings will go, look, Kirk, we appreciate it, but the farthest we ever got with you is we made it to one divisional round game. One divisional round game. That was the farthest they ever got. That was the 2019 season where they beat Drew Brees and the Saints in the first round, and they played the Niners and, got destroyed. That's the closest they ever got. And, as much as I like Kirk, I think if you're Minnesota and you're in a position to draft one of these quarterbacks and you're not reaching for it, yeah, you got to do it. And you got to be like, Kirk, we appreciate it. But, we're going to try to rebuild the rest of the roster and let your 40-something million head out the door. So, looking at the Chargers, look, Brandon Staley, I think he's a dumb coach. I think he makes a lot of dumb decisions. The 4th and 1 play was dumb, but that's not even like a lot of his dumb. He makes dumb decisions all the time. And yeah, I do 100% believe that if he would have lost that game, he's getting fired. They probably go, hey, you can fly back, but as soon as you make it back, we got to talk in my office. And then they would have been like, Staley, you got to go. People say they would have promoted Kellen Moore. I have no idea. Probably they promote Kellen Moore, but regardless, I think he's a dead man walking. I think Brown said it on the podcast that he believes that the Chargers have to win a playoff game for him to stick around and keep his job. Yeah, that's probably correct because like I said in the last podcast, I don't know what he brings to the table that you're like, yep, gotta have him as a coach. I don't get it. He's probably nice to his players. That's probably it. But yeah, for the Chargers, you got off the winless streak. Somebody had to win that game. Chargers defense still looks bad though. J.C. Jackson, he was a healthy scratch and active. I think he's got a warrant out for his rest in New England or in Boston because I don't know, he was supposed to show up in court and he didn't. He's just been a complete failure, I guess, as a cornerback. So that was money well spent. But yeah, it just goes to show you that people made such a big deal of the Chargers, like last year, like they got Khalil Mack, they got J.C. Jackson. Watch out, Chiefs. And it's like Khalil Mack is not the same guy, and J.C. Jackson's not even playing anymore. So yeah. Another thing with that game, Mike Williams, they found out he tore his ACL. You don't ever want to see a player get hurt, especially for the season. Like, being a Chiefs fan, if a player gets hurt and they're like, oh, they'll be out for a week and the next game is against the Chiefs, I'll be like, okay, thank God we don't have to deal with that guy. But, you don't ever want to see a guy be out for the season like that. And it's terrible. If there's it's not a silver lining, but if there's a bright spot to it, it's the fact that they drafted Quentin Johnston, I think with a 21st pick, 23rd, I don't remember which one, but he literally, because he's not some short slot receiver, he's literally another, I'm not saying he's as good as Mike Williams yet or Keenan Allen, but he kind of fits that mold. So you would think he should be able to slide right into that number 2 wide receiver slot, and let's see how good he is. Now, obviously, he's not the route runner as these other guys. He doesn't have the experience. Maybe he hasn't learned the physicality of the NFL, but I think he's got all the tools to make it work. So we'll see how he fits being propelled into a bigger role. Okay, Patriots at Jets. The Jets, they made it close kind of at the end, but at the same time, the Patriots were pretty conservative. It was 15-10 was the final. Not really much to say about this. I mean, the Jets kind of, the famous, Dennis Green line, or the former coach of the Cardinals, they are who we thought they were. The Jets were who we thought they were. They held the Patriots to 15 points on offense, so, good for them. But their offense only scored 10, so you come up short. Mac Jones, I don't think he had any bonehead plays. They just, kind of, I think they took the long game with this one. And I mean, I want to look at this game because I want to see like how the points were scored because I was watching Red Zone. So, oh, they did get one touchdown. I forgot about that. Yeah, they had a backup tight end that got a long touchdown. But yeah, aside from that, wasn't a whole lot of explosiveness coming from the Patriots. So, but they did their job and they got another win against the Jets. I think it's 15 in a row. So, if you're the Jets, like, because of the Patriots, I think we kind of expected that they would win this game. So, them being 1-2, they're a team that's probably going to finish right under 500, most likely. If you're the Jets, look, I liked initially the plan of Aaron Rodgers as your starter. You let Zach Wilson sit for probably 2 years. And then at the end of that, he should have enough quarterback knowledge where you can truly make an assessment of, okay, this is your Jordan Love moment. You've been sitting behind a great quarterback. Let's see what you got. And if you're not better, all right, we move on from you. That's what they wanted because they wanted to salvage the fact that they drafted number 2 overall 2 years ago. Now, if we look at it, I just think that he's been playing so badly. And like I said, I don't want to completely give up on Zach Wilson. I think he should be a backup somewhere because he still has great arm talent and all that. But he needs to truly sit with somebody. Because my thing is, without Rodgers, I don't really trust anyone on the Jets that can actually coach him up. I don't trust Nathaniel Hackett. It's basically, if Rodgers is not there, I don't believe he can truly get better at the position. He needs a quarterback whisperer, someone to truly mentor him up. I mean, you could say I'm biased, but I would like the Chiefs to take, like Blaine Gabbert, I just saw him, and we'll get to that, but against the Bears, he throws 2 interceptions. One was clearly on him. The other was, I think, 50-50. He threw kind of a Brett Favre bullet, maybe not like as hard as Brett Favre, but he threw a bullet pass into a receiver. It went off the guy's hands and then went up for an interception. I kind of put that 50-50. You don't need to bullet some of these passes. But anyway, yeah, I'm not a Blaine Gabbert guy. He went to Mizzou. I'm a Mizzou fan. But I never thought he was all that good, to be honest. When people were saying, oh, he's a top 10 pick, I'm like, I don't know what you're seeing, but okay. But yeah, Zach Wilson as the backup to Mahomes, they kind of play similar, or at least they have similar skill sets. Now, I'm not saying Zach Wilson he's not a tenth of how good Mahomes is, but like, if something were to happen with Mahomes and he got coached up and got to watch Mahomes consistently for years, and then also under Andy Reid, I could see it where if Mahomes went down and Zach Wilson's been properly trained, we could be like, all right, we got something to work with. He's familiar with the offense. He's been in it for years, and he's got a similar skill set. You know, you don't have to call the same plays as when Patrick's in, but having Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and under Patrick's wing, I think that could really help Zach Wilson. So that would be my move in the offseason is if the Jets are willing to just straight up release him and he's on the market, I would move off from Blaine Gabbert and be like, yeah, we'll take Zach Wilson and put him in our quarterback room. But he has, right now, he has not been playing good enough to be a starter anywhere. I don't think any team would ever take a chance on him again to be a starter. Like I said, you're a backup. If you come in and you prove that you're actually decent, you might eventually get a shot again today. That's what Sam Darnold's trying to do with the 49ers, that if something happens to Brock Purdy, he can step in and get another shot. Anyway, so yeah, that was the Patriots-Jets game. I do think the Jets need to take somebody in. I think that Carson Wentz, which people laugh at that idea. You really think Carson Wentz is going to be worse than Zach Wilson? Because I don't. Carson Wentz might have a game where he, gets sacked, fumbles, and might throw like 2 picks. That might happen. But you're also going to have Carson Wentz actually throwing the ball down the field, giving guys a shot, being harder to take down in the pocket. I don't. This whole, like, what do we... Like, all you got to do is throw Carson Wentz some money. You don't have to trade any picks for him because he's right on the open market. And just be like, Carson, we'll give you a chance to start. And that's exactly what he wants. He just wants a chance to start. I don't see why it's that hard of a decision to make. I would bring him in. Now, maybe they have zero money. Maybe that's why they can't do it. But and maybe Carson just doesn't want to play for free. But if I'm Carson, as long as they offer you, I would say more than like $1 million, I would be like, yeah, I'm going to take it. It's $1 million more than I'm making this year. Yeah, that's another chance for me to get in there. And if I'm the Jets, reach out to him because I don't care what anyone says. That guy has shown talent before. He wasn't even awful last year with the Commanders. He was just as good in moments as Taylor Heinicke and just as bad as Taylor Heinicke in moments. I just think Carson Wentz has more talent. But anyway, Bills and Commanders. Carson Wentz's former team, Commanders. Bills blew them out. This one, like, I thought this could happen, but, we never want to make that mistake. Commanders were 2-0. We're like, what if they are good this year? So it's like maybe it won't be a blowout. But Sam Howell looked terrible. This is the Sam Howell that I was expecting to see. And, like, this has got to come around at some point. You face the Cardinals week 1, and then week 2, I I can't even remember who they beat. I thought they barely won, but someone had to remind me. I can't think off the top of my head who they beat. Jesus, frustrating. Anyway, yeah. So with the Bills, this is another get back game for them. I think they are really. I didn't view them as last week when they beat the Raiders. I was not thinking, oh, they'll be satisfied. They got another win in the win column. I think they're pissed off how the Jets game went, and I think they're very motivated to be like, we're just going to go on a spree where we're just going to like take it out on all these other teams. The Commanders, that defense finally got shown up that, hey, yeah, your pass rush is pretty good, but maybe your secondary can't cover all that well. Josh Allen played great. And yeah, with the Commanders, your offense sucked. Just straight up, it sucked. Sam Howell sucked. 4 interceptions. Terrible. This is another reason why I don't think Sam Howell's the guy. But whatever. They want to roll that chance and, just give the keys to him. Okay, well, this is what you're going to get. And I think they've kind of been living in fairy tale land. I think it's going to start crashing down for them where they're going to start losing games. But why can't I think of who they played already? What? Anybody? Why can't I think? Who did the Commanders play in week 2? For the life of me, I can't. Broncos. That's who they played. Yeah, and that was a game that I said it that the pass interference and the 2-point conversion that wasn't called. I was like, that's kind of BS. So I think that game should have gone to overtime. You could make an argument that Hail Mary was a fluke thing, but yeah, the Commanders, they beat the Cardinals and they beat the Broncos. Those are 2 of the top 6 worst teams in the NFL, and they get blown up by the Bills. How good are they? We'll see. Okay, Texans, Jaguars. I picked the Jags. Everyone picked the Jags, but I said to Jeff, I don't want to strongly bet on this game. I didn't put them in my safe parlay. I put them in my lottery parlay. But I was like, the AFC South, it's like you can't bank on anything in the AFC South because something fluky always happens. I know people always say division games are different because, you got rivalries and people prepare and all that kind of stuff. I get it. At the same time, the AFC South is like a whole different animal because the teams you think are good, they might be good against other teams, but as soon as they play in their division, it's like, nope, you lose. Like, how many years have we seen the Colts are supposed to be good, and then they went to Jacksonville when they sucked and they would lose? So I feel like we've seen this for a long time. But C.J. Stroud, just want to say, I was on the record. I said that he was the best quarterback coming out of this draft. He's the one I would take number 1. He had accuracy, had a good arm. I thought he made good decisions. Yes, you can say at Ohio State he's got all these weapons, but C.J. Stroud, you watch his tape, he does everything the right way. I'm not saying he's the most dynamic. He doesn't have the wow plays, but he just does a good job. Like Colin Cowherd said it, professional quarterback. He looks like a professional quarterback. Yes, he does. And they're making those receivers work. I mean, Tank Dell, I think is the guy's name. I forgot where they got him in the draft, but he looks good. They got that Nico Collins guy. He looks good. Robert Woods looks like a solid number 3 option for them. But yeah, Dameon Pierce is their running back. Dalton Schultz is their tight end. Looks like they got more weapons than we thought. That defense is coming along. D'Amico Ryans because his first win as a coach. I always love hearing about a former player played for a franchise. If they get to come back and coach their team, that's awesome. So D'Amico Ryans is a good guy, good leader. I just hope that GM doesn't fire another coach again after 1 year. I would hope not. But for Jacksonville, just raises concerns about how legit are you? I mean, look, I had the Jaguars missing the playoffs. It's too early to say stuff like that, but my thing is this roster is not like the Eagles, 49ers where or it's not even the Lions, I don't think. I don't think their roster is that fleshed out. They got Trevor, they got some wide receivers, they got a running back or 2, they got 1 or 2 guys that are good on the O-line, and then they got some pieces on defense, but I'm not sold on everything else. Obviously, their secondary looks like it still needs work, so yeah, Trevor didn't play great. Starting to become a little bit of a pattern. I don't have him ranked in the top half of quarterbacks, which everyone think is crazy, but I need to see more from Trevor. I liked what I saw a lot last year. He made a lot of good jumps, good strides, but not ready to anoint him as, Nick Wright puts him as top 5 quarterbacks. I'm like, no, he's not there yet. He's not. Colts at Ravens. This is one of the key games. It's like me as a bettor this last weekend just was terrible. Gardner Minshew comes in. Ravens, I know they had a lot of injuries. It was a rainy game. A lot of field goals. Justin Tucker I get it with Justin Tucker, but I do get, I personally, I used to be a Raven, I've always been a Chiefs fan, but when the Chiefs were really terrible, I was like, okay, well, we're 2-14 or 4-12. It's like, I got to look at some of the team and kind of root for them so I can get a little bit of enjoyment out of the season. So I would root for the Ravens when they had Ray Lewis. I'd root for the Colts when we weren't playing them as a Chiefs fan, when they had Peyton. And I would root for the Titans as well. I like the Titans. But yeah, I would root for these teams. And anyway, Justin Tucker is just always a guy that, since Ray Lewis retired, I've been like, it's not that I don't like him as a kicker. Like, he's a great kicker, but I get tired of the way the media, like the commentators will be like, get Justin Tucker out there. Yeah, 60-something yards, screw it, he'll make it. And I know the weather conditions weren't the greatest, but he does have limits. He can't make everything. 2 years ago, they're playing the Lions. There was I think there was supposed to be a delay of game or something that didn't get called, or some penalty where like it should have been called. Anyway, the Lions, the Ravens got to kick the ball like 5 yards closer than they needed to, and he barely made it, but he made it, and that's how the Ravens won the game. Ticked me off because I bet on that game too. But anyway, the Ravens, I think that kind of bit them in the ass this time, where they just assumed that Justin Tucker could make that, and he couldn't, and it gave the Colts great field position. Gardner Minshew, I think this is pretty much what he is, where like when he comes in as a backup, he can play decent for you. But if you ever were looking to be like, hey, we need a quarterback to consistently score more than 25 points, it ain't Gardner Minshew. So he did a good job as the backup, but Anthony Richardson's the more talented guy. He just needs to get more starts. But the Colts are looking like a solid roster. They're first in their division right now. So maybe this is what we were expecting last year, but then Matt Ryan was a statue and lost all his arm talent. So I did see a story today where like Matt Ryan was like, no, if the Jets asked, I'm not interested in playing for them. And in my head, I'm like, I don't think the Jets asked. I don't think they reached out to you because they saw the tape from last year, and why would they want that? Matt Ryan had a great career. He really did. People like diminish him. He's probably one step below Hall of Famer. Hall of Very Good. He was very good for a long time. But last year proved you don't have it anymore. Where were we? For the Colts, good win for them. For the Ravens, you had a lot of injuries. I guess you chalk it up to that, weather conditions, whatever. I honestly don't think Lamar even played like badly. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. I think it was just one of those things that, I don't know, Colts hit you with some punches that you couldn't punch back from, and he was down some starters, and it affected him. Panthers, Seahawks. I bet on the Seahawks, but then when I heard that Bryce Young was out, I was like, well, Andy Dalton's playing. I was like, he's better than Bryce Young. And I was like, I don't know. I kind of feel like the Panthers could be frisky and kind of shock the world and beat Seattle in Seattle. And they, for 3.5 quarters, it was looking like Carolina had a really good shot at doing that. Adam Thielen had an awakening game. Turns out that their weapons aren't that bad. So maybe if you're Bryce Young and everyone's making excuses saying, oh, they have the worst weapons in the NFL, how about you shut up and like just say that the kid hasn't been playing that well. The amount of protection that these young quarterbacks, and I would say especially the black quarterbacks, and I want to keep saying this, I'm not racist, but when I notice that people aren't being treated the same based off of what I think is their race, it's just reverse racism in the sense of normally if someone's discriminating against a black person, everyone's like up in arms like that's racist. But if you do reverse racism where you overly defend a player because he's black, and then you don't properly criticize them, then you're treating players differently based off their race. It's just no one will officially say that. They'll just be like, I love Bryce Young. I love Justin Fields. They can do no wrong in my eyes. And my thing is, we want good quarterbacks to succeed, but you can't coddle these players. And my thing is, Bryce Young has looked terrible in the first 2 weeks. Maybe not like F grades, but I would say D grades. A touchdown each game, but nothing too impressive. Has been the main reason why they lost because they couldn't get any offense going. Andy Dalton showed you yesterday, we got pieces on this team. We can get some offense. Had a big touchdown to DJ Chark. Like I said, Adam Thielen, I think, went for over 100 yards and a touchdown. So I don't want to hear this crap that they have nothing. Like, do they have, the Chiefs, like, weaponry or, like, coaching? Or do they have the Niners or the Eagles? No. Or the Dolphins? No. But they have solid guys that if you do solid quarterback play, you can win some games in this league. The defense was holding the Seahawks down for like the first half, and then eventually the floodgates kind of broke open. Geno started to pick it up a little better. Their running game, Kenneth Walker looked great. Seattle gets another win. They're 2-1. Solid for them. For Carolina, if I'm Frank Reich, I'd be like, hey, Bryce, you said your ankle's banged up. Let's rest you another week. Let's see if we can get a win, because we'll get to who they play. But Carolina has a winnable game. I'm not saying I'm picking them to win, but it's a game that, like, hey, you play your cards right, you might be able to win. Okay, the next game, time to get to Bears-Chiefs. So what ticks me off about this game is that the Chiefs could have shut them out completely, but because Mahomes got banged up a little bit, and then Gabbert came in to relieve him. Gabbert is not a good quarterback, so he threw 2 picks like in his first 2 possessions, and the Bears were able to score 10 points off that. Aside from that, the Chiefs basically played a flawless game. Offense looked good. Looks like we could basically do whatever we wanted. And defensively, we stopped the Bears, and Justin Fields looked like crap again. Now people are going to be like, well, the Chiefs have a great defense now, so that's why Justin Fields struggled. That's part of it. Another part of it is Justin Fields, if he couldn't scramble and you were like, sit back in the pocket and beat us from the pocket, he couldn't do it. And anyone that says he doesn't have good weapons, DJ Moore and Chase Claypool, take those guys off the Chiefs. Like, Kelsey stays on the Chiefs, but I'm saying take the wide receivers from the Bears off the Chiefs, and we give them Rice and Kadarius Toney and Sky, or just Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. Like, here you go. We're a better team, like, because of the receivers. We're like, wow, that's a major improvement for us. DJ Moore's great. Chase Claypool's great. So I don't want to hear anything about the receivers aren't doing their job. They have 2 solid tight ends. Robert Tonyan, Cole Kmet are solid tight ends. Their running back, I'm not a Herbert guy, but a lot of people think that guy's good. I think that's part of the problem is they can't get a solid running game. Look, they got a lot of holes in the roster, but Justin Fields, I don't need him to be perfect, but he should be making more plays than he does. Yeah, for the Chiefs, looked good, solid all the way around. Lots of good progress in this game. This is what people call like a get-right game. Even though we won in week 2, it was close. This is a get-right game, get everyone's confidence back. Mahomes got to sit, I think, he got to sit, I think, the whole 4th quarter, but some of the 3rd quarter at least. That every time his ankle got rolled up on or whatever, it's always scary because we're like, dang, like, come on, not again. I just hope he's not going to be hobbled for a long time. I hope, like, he can get right. I think our bye is not until week 10, so it might be a while, but we are that. I mean, that's a scary thing. It's like everyone's one Aaron Rodgers injury away from like, hey, your season's just screwed. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so yeah, but Chiefs, the Taylor Swift thing, it's cool to see like one of the biggest pop stars in the world, probably the biggest pop star in the world, show up to your home stadium. It's pretty awesome. I hope it works out for them, but I hope the media kind of shuts up about this. I know they won't, but I hope they give those 2 some privacy. And I wholeheartedly believe that basically what they said is true. That, look, they just exchanged some messages. They're in the beginning talking stage of flirting that like, hey, this is fun. You're a new person. Let's get to know each other. They haven't got a chance to even, like, people are like, they're dating. They're trying to get to know each other to see if dating is the right thing. It's all fun right now. But that's the stage where you do kind of want to be left alone. It's like, stop putting all this pressure, acting like we're a couple yet. It's like we're 2 people that are interested in getting to know each other better, interested in dating, but we're not dating yet. We're seeing how it goes. I don't know. I'm not a dating expert. I like I said, hope it works out for them. T Swift, I haven't always agreed with her on some of the things she said, but she seems like she's got a good heart. Travis is a good dude. I would just be afraid the way she goes through dudes. I would just be afraid that basically a couple years he gets to the age where he wants to retire, and then she's like, well, I want someone who's still doing something actively. Travis will have a job in the media. The day that he retires, if he wanted a job in the media, he'd get it. Any of these studio shows would be lucky to have him. Unfortunately for me, I think that would be kind of lost in him. I think he'd be a lot better on like FS1 as far as like speak, and maybe replace some of those people that aren't actually great players, or just make his own show. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, good win for the Chiefs. If you're the Bears, that was our get-right game because that was the worst team in the NFL, in my opinion. If you're a Bears fan, look for Caleb Williams, man, because he might be able to save you, because as of right now, your roster needs a lot of help, but maybe he could save you. Okay. And then we had Cowboys-Cardinals. No, I don't think anyone got this game right. What a butt kicking, like a reverse butt kicking, where everyone thought Cowboys just going to demolish them. I thought that Cardinals came in, punched them in the mouth. Like, there was never a moment where Dallas was like, hey, maybe we might actually have a chance. Every single time that was about to happen, Cardinals punched them in the mouth and was like, nope, you're not getting that. Dak threw a crucial, it was an important play, and he threw a pick on it in the end zone. Wasn't a great game by him. My thing with the Cowboys, I think their defense, which got gashed today, I'll say that, but their defense is good enough where they have a Super Bowl caliber defense. That's not the problem. They have a strong enough offensive line. I don't think that's the problem. Tony Pollard with his injury, I haven't seen him have a good dominant game, so he just seems like a good running back, not a great one. And if that's the case, you still need solid quarterback play, and Dak Prescott at times can be really good. and at times can be bad. And I have him as a top 10 quarterback, but he's barely making the top 10. I think if Rodgers is healthy, I think I have him at 9 is where I have Dak Prescott. Because he gives you more good than bad. But the problem is, like, every time you're like, Dak, we need you to deliver against a tough opponent. A lot of times he just folds and doesn't come through. So I think Dak's a good front runner. I think when they're rolling, I think he doesn't surrender a whole lot of leads. He can keep playing. But when you're down, Dak is not generally the guy that you want. But that's just my opinion. For the Cardinals, that doesn't look like they're tanking. I think Gannon's kind of a goofy guy. And, wasn't sure how deserving he was of that job just because your defense played good with the Eagles. But that's what happens. But, yeah, I mean, Josh Dobbs, he has this kind of potential where he's actually a pretty good athlete. And, yeah, he can make some decent throws. I don't think he's starting quarterback material, but he played well yesterday. So, got to give him props. And if you're Arizona, I don't know, stack as many wins as you can. See who is worth keeping as you're going through this rebuilding process. And as far as Kyler Murray, it does give people hope that if Kyler can come back in a couple weeks, that maybe, they're probably not making the playoffs, but you can build some momentum. I don't care what anyone says, football especially, but any of these major sports, people always act like it's better to tank. It's not. Like, literally never. Because you could have a top pick, but if you have all these guys being like, this locker room sucks, we don't win here. We don't know how to win. We're good at losing. We're good at that. Having this great player doesn't instantly solve all your problems. Having Trevor Lawrence didn't immediately solve all the Jaguars' problems. They were terrible that first year. Urban Meyer or not, I don't care. They weren't good. He didn't solve all their problems. Like, are they a lot better team now? Sure. Are they destined to win a Super Bowl? No. Nothing is guaranteed just because they have Trevor Lawrence. So these teams that think it's great to tank, and I'm not saying the Jaguars tanked. I mean, they kind of did, but I think it's always best to win when you can. That way, when free agents become available, they look at your team and go, all right, well, they try. Like, it's kind of what the Lions are doing right now. Everyone knows that they've gone through a hard time. They've gone through a lot of losing. They traded away Matthew Stafford. Everyone knows that. But why do people like them? They won 9 games last year. Like, they finally had a winning record again, which is good. But what I'm saying is, even before that, people saw them and they said, they have this group of guys that care. It's infectious. And even though they're not making wins right now, we can see that everyone in that locker room cares and they're trying, and they're trying, and they're trying. That is worth so much more than you tanking for a number 1 pick. Caleb Williams is great, but if the Bears don't actually start fixing the rest of that roster, it's not going to matter. And you'll end up wasting his career, and he'll ask for a trade, or, he'll be like, I'm not signing my 5th-year option. I'm out. I don't care. I don't want to stay here. Stuff like that can happen. Anyway, on to the next game. We got the Sunday night game was Steelers at the Raiders. This is another game that I got wrong. Jimmy G kind of started piecing together at the end, but he did throw 3 picks. Like, every time they really were like, Jimmy, come through for us. He didn't. Kenny Pickett played good. I wouldn't say great, but he played good. I think the main story was the Raiders' offensive line could not hold up against the Steelers. That was the main difference, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't know. This is probably how the Steelers are going to have to win, if I'm being honest. There's tough defensive play, make some big plays when you can, but that's about it. From what I see from Kenny Pickett, I don't know. The way the Steelers are playing, they could probably make the playoffs like this. I just don't know if you're going to win many playoff games as it is, but, got to grow somehow. But yeah, the Raiders, it's just disappointing because I do feel like they should be getting more offensive output. I think this was even though they lost, I think this was a good game for the Raiders as far as, like, keep getting progression and, getting timing with Devontae Adams, with Jacoby Myers. Michael Mayer caught a 2-point conversion as their tight end. Like, I don't even remember who their other tight end is that's on the roster. Austin Hooper, I think, is their tight end. I've never thought he's great. He's just a guy to me. So I would keep trying to get Michael Mayer involved and bring him up. Hunter Renfrow, the slot receiver, unless something like drastically happened to him health-wise in the last couple of years, I'd be trying to get him the ball more. But, I'm not Josh McDaniels. He probably has a reason for why Renfrow hasn't been getting a lot of touches as your slot guy. But I'd be getting him more involved. But the Raiders are a team that I think they have talent where, like, I see they can definitely be a competent team that gets at least 8 wins this year. I definitely think they can do that. It's just making mistakes and not capitalizing on opportunities. I mean, I know you can say that about any team, but they have the potential there. I do think, like, everyone's down on Jimmy G. he's a guy, he doesn't have a great arm, but he can get the ball to the people when he needs to. I think he's got good accuracy and good timing. I still see that. Need a little bit better protection, and Jimmy needs to trust his eyes more. And, we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, good win for the Steelers. And, yeah, I already broke down the Monday night game. So, that took an hour exactly right there. So that was the breakdown of the Monday night games. I do want to do a preview of these next games. And like I said, and then I want to give you a quick, my mock draft for where the teams stand. So let's give me 1 second. We'll move on to next week. Okay, so we got the Thursday night game is Lions at the Packers. So give me the Lions. I've been high on the Lions all year. Jordan Love, that's, he squeaked out this last week with a win, and you could make an argument that if that kicker makes that field goal, they don't win that game. Week 1, he dominated the Bears, so I'll give him that one. And then week 2 came a close loss against the Falcons. But yeah, give me the Lions. They're getting in their groove offensively. I like that they're getting Sam Laporta more involved. And I think this will be a great game to watch. I really do. But this is like a true test for Jordan Love. Because this is for the division. Whoever wins this game is in first place in the division. So that should be fun. Okay, then we got this early Sunday morning game in London. Falcons at Jaguars, which is in London. So it is kind of a home game for them because the Jaguars, they're many years having games over there. They're very popular over there. Give me the Jags. Like I said, I'm not a Desmond Ridder guy. I think this is, they placed the Lions this last week. Didn't go well for them. I think this is their test of, how good are you? And if you're the Jags, you just lost 2 games in a row. You lose to the Chiefs, that's one thing. It was close. You lose to the Texans, you just got punched in the mouth by the Texans. You're now going over to London. This is basically a primetime game because it's the only game on. Everyone's going to be watching that's a football fan that wants to get up that early. You got to win this game, and you should be comfortable playing over in London. So, give me the Jaguars. If they don't win this game, you got real major problems. And I know the Falcons have some good guys on defense, but yeah, Jaguars got to pull this one out. All right, big noon game. Dolphins at the Bills. I'm not going through all the over-unders. I guess, if you want me to break down, Detroit's a slight favorite against Green Bay. Jacksonville's a favorite against Atlanta. Buffalo's favored by 2.5 at home. I'll take the Bills. That's the thing. I'm surprised with everyone on Miami right now. I'm surprised that people are still saying the Bills are favored, but I just think as unstoppable as Miami look, there's a lot of things about the Bills that are pretty unstoppable. Josh Allen, when he's rolling, is pretty hard to stop. He's a great runner, and he's got a cannon for an arm. The Bills have a pretty good defense, it looks like, again. So, yeah, give me the Bills. I think it's not going to be as easy as it was against Denver. Speaking of Denver, you have the Broncos at the Bears. The Broncos are favored by 3.5. I'll take the Broncos. I've ridden with them this far. If you lose to the Bears, you are the worst team in the league. This is a deciding factor. Whoever loses this game, they're the worst in the league. I don't care. So the Bears can't score a whole lot. So there should be this, if you're Denver and you allow Chicago to score, I would say more than 30 points. It's already obvious your defense has problems. You've lost 70 points, but I'm saying the Bears are the worst team in the NFL right now. If you allow them to score more than 30 points, you have a problem. If you're Denver, the Bears have no notable defensive players. You should be able to get 28 points on them, at least. So, and if you can't, that roster's got to go. I don't think that's always a coaching thing. Then that roster's not good enough. Straight up. Okay, Ravens at the Browns. I will take the Ravens. The Browns are favored by 2.5. I'll take the Ravens. This is a fun one for me that I'm I know the Ravens were injured. They had a lot of injuries last week. Hopefully some of those guys come back. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at, who's expected to come back. But, the Browns defense looks great. Don't get me wrong. But if I have to pick one, Lamar or Deshaun Watson, because I do think these rosters are both very close. Yeah, give me Lamar. Okay. Bengals at Titans, as of when I have this up, that game doesn't have an over-under. I'm assuming the Bengals are going to be favored because they just got back on track and the Titans look like crap. I will take the Bengals on this one. I've been on the Titans all year, but when I looked at their schedule initially, this is the one I'm I don't see them winning. And now the Bengals got a win. They got their confidence back a little bit. Titans just don't look like they can put out a whole lot of offense. That's one of the problems. Their defense doesn't look amazing. Looks okay at times. But I think the Bengals get back on track. Okay, Rams at Colts. So the Colts are 2-1. This also doesn't have an over/under yet. The Rams, they just came off a loss this last night, to the Bengals. I think if the Rams can get some protection, I think they can win this game. So I'll take the Rams. Like I said, I'm a believer in Stafford. I'm a believer in McVay. I think they can get the job done. I don't think Gardner Minshew can put up enough points, or I don't think that Colts defense can put the clamps down. Because they put the clamps down on Lamar to a certain extent, although Lamar still ran for some touchdowns. But I think containing Stafford and the passing attack is a little bit more difficult. The way the Rams are set up, the Colts. I think the Colts are better at maybe stopping the run as they are the pass. Like stopping Lamar from passing and stopping Stafford from passing are two different things. But we'll see. But yeah, I'll take the Rams in that one. Bucks at Saints. This also does not have an over/under yet. I'm assuming the Saints are going to be slightly favored, most likely. I will take the Bucks. I picked them to win the division this year. Jameis should be starting. You would think Jameis has extra motivation to beat his former team, maybe. But Tampa's defense actually looks still pretty good. And I think they could get some turnovers out of Jameis. And I think Baker, he just played against Philly. And, they lost. But the Saints should be an easier task, I believe. So, and I think, Tampa just overall has when you include their offense and the fact that it's not Jameis throwing the ball, I'll take the Bucks. Commanders at Eagles. I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. I think they rout the Commanders. After seeing what the Bills did, I think the Eagles rout them. That's in Philly. Vikings at Panthers. Another battle. So between the Bears and the Broncos and then Vikings-Panthers, this is the race for the number one pick. So Vikings at Panthers. Minnesota's favored by 3.5. I will take the Vikings. I think if Andy Dalton starts again, I think this will be actually a pretty competitive game because it seems like the Vikings are not going to be able to stop the Panthers. And I think the Vikings offense is so good that even though Carolina's front is pretty good, that they'll still be able to score points. And Adam Thielen, this is his revenge game, you could say, but I think he'll come up short. I think the Vikings get their first dub. If Bryce Young plays, I think they'll blow him out because I don't think there's any way Bryce Young could compete with the points that the Vikings are going to be trying to score. We got a lot of noon games. Steelers at Texans. So Texans coming off that big win. This is one of the few that I legitimately just favor the Steelers straight up. I think the Steelers, although I think this is going to be a fun, close game. I really do. Two young quarterbacks. Steelers have an established defense. Houston, it's up and coming. I think this will be closer than people think. Pittsburgh's favored by 3. It's probably about right. I'll take the Steelers on the road. Okay, now we're getting into the afternoon games. Raiders at Chargers. So it's in LA, which means it's a home game for the Raiders because I lived in LA last year. Anyone that's been around LA could tell you. So it's a Raiders town. And then there's Rams fans. Don't get it twisted. People make it out like there's no Rams fans. There's Rams fans. Never saw any Chargers fans when I lived in Los Angeles. So I'll take the Raiders in that one. It's close. A lot of people are like, you're crazy. If Jimmy G can't go, I'll take the Chargers because I don't trust the backups now. Yeah, I know a lot of people like Aiden O'Connell. I don't trust them. But if Jimmy G can play, which he finished the game, that's the thing. His concussion, I think he'll be okay. But I saw a lot of good things with how they were clicking. And that Raiders defense, I don't think is actually terrible. I think they're okay. They got some playmakers on the defense. Their secondary is not terrible. Give me the Raiders. I trust them more than I trust the Chargers right now, and I know that maybe sounds crazy to some people. Patriots at Cowboys. I'll take the Cowboys. I think they're going to have a bounce back game. And the Patriots shouldn't be a team that could really. I mean, you would say that about the Cardinals before, but I don't think the Patriots. I don't think they could put up the points necessary to beat the Cowboys, and I think the Cowboys are going to be pissed, and maybe they were drinking too much of their own Kool-Aid, and I think they're going to have Patriots will have all of their attention. So I'll take Dallas. It's at home. I'll take Dallas. They're favored by 7. And then the last afternoon game, we got Arizona at San Francisco. Now, the line is 14. After seeing what happened with Dallas, that's too high of a line in my opinion. Anyone favored by 14, they got to be a truly awful team. Arizona kind of proved maybe they're not too awful. But yeah, I'm taking San Francisco. That one's pretty easy and obvious. Okay, the Sunday night game, it hasn't been flexed out yet because I don't think they can flex until next week. It's Chiefs at Jets. Taylor Swift lives in New York, so she's probably going to be there. Is that the part that I really care about? No, but some of the people do. Chiefs are favored by 9.5. Look, the Jets have a good defense, and aside from them causing a lot of turnovers, which I don't think they're going to be able to do, Yeah, I think the Chiefs win this game, and that's the thing. The Jets haven't shown that they can put up a lot of points. They in the first game they had 16 points of offense because they did get the punt return, but 16 points of offense in game one against Buffalo, 10 against Dallas, and another 10 yesterday against the Pats. So yeah, 10 points is not going to be enough to beat the Chiefs in my opinion. So I will take the Chiefs there. And then the last game of the week, Monday night, Seahawks at Giants. Giants are favored by 1.5. I see a lot of people are probably going to bet on the Seahawks. I will take the Giants at home. I think Daniel Jones can make enough plays. I think that defense could have a bounce back against Seattle. So yeah, it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. But yeah, Saquon might be back for that as well because he'll have a nice, basically 2 weeks to rest up on that injury. So I will take the Giants in that one. To the mock draft, I want to get to that. So, I could show it up on the screen. I could do like a screen share, but I won't do that. I guess I'll flash this. I don't know if you can make that out, but maybe if you wanted to pause it and try to look at it. But anyway, so the way I do the mock drafts is whatever the team's record are this year, obviously we slide them by that. And if teams are tied, you go to the record the year before, and that kind of breaks the tie of like, okay, well, who was worse last year, and whoever was worse than the team they have the same record with this year, they get the edge in the draft order. So the Bears I have as the number one pick. They take Caleb Williams out of USC. You can't not get, like if you're the Bears and you have that position, sorry, Justin Fields, bye. You move him, trade him or not re-sign him, however you want to do it. But yeah, Caleb Williams is your guy. And for some people saying, well, the Bears are a dumpster fire, would Caleb want to go there? Look, man, should Joe Burrow have wanted to go to the Bengals, but that's turned out pretty well because guess what? The right guy can turn things around. If a guy is an accurate passer and good and knows how to play position, which obviously he does, you can start putting pieces around him. That's the thing. It's not actually that bad a don't get me wrong, you got to overhaul the coaches. I agree with you there. But you have two solid wide receivers in place. Chase Claypool and DJ Moore, sure. Give any young quarterback those, he'd be like, yeah, I'm happy. That actually wants to throw the ball and isn't Justin Fields. Running game, I think they could get a better running game, and then start building the young pieces around him. All I'm saying is it's not the worst I've ever seen for a quarterback to jump into a position, and you never know. You could go back to college and get hurt, and a lot of people be like, yeah, he's not a number one pick now, or maybe all of a sudden he plays bad, or I don't know, but I'm saying I wouldn't take chances of that. Caleb Williams has shown that he is above the college. I say above. He is so good that the college game, I don't think it's challenging him on a weekly basis. Now, obviously, there's still tough teams to go up against, but I think it's like, yeah, it's time to prove my mettle in the NFL, time to test myself and start making that money. And I don't really care. People say, like, that first team could ruin you. You're not going to probably get the level of wins that you were getting in college, but I have no doubt that if the talent is legit, it's going to be clear and obvious. Like, yeah, I'm a guy, I'm a keeper, build around me, all that kind of stuff. I just don't think that if you are that dude, you don't shy away from that challenge of any roster or any team. Any team can be salvaged. I don't care what anyone says. How you could have terrible ownership. The Bengals were known to not have great ownership, but they have become a perennial contender now. The number 2 pick, I got Denver. They, as far as I know, they no longer owe any picks to Seattle anymore. That trade has been finalized and done with. You take the best available player, and although some people be like, hey, take a quarterback because you need to replace Russ. My thing is, you got a lot of holes on that roster. It's not just Russ. You can bring another quarterback. I don't think there's any need to reach. Your wide receivers are nothing special. I like Cortland Sutton. If he's your number 2, that's great. And Jerry Jeudy could slide into your number 3. Marvin Harrison Jr., take him. Another cool thing, if that were to happen, Peyton Manning obviously is still very close to the Broncos. He's pretty much flip-flopped in the sense of he kind of, the culture, like the distant, like ex-girlfriend where he's like, yeah, or ex-wife, I should say, we had some great memories, all that stuff. I love it there and I'll always love you. And if you ever need me, okay. But he's not one to go back and spend a lot of time with Indy the way he is with Denver. Denver is like, my last wife, like, or my current wife, everything's good. He's content being like around Denver. He still lives there. So if Marvin Harrison Jr. gets drafted there, Marvin Harrison will obviously be around there because he wants to watch his son play. And then Peyton, I think there'll be a lot of good synergy there as far as being comfortable. Peyton could kind of tell, because he actually is close with Sean Payton to a sense. He likes him. They could actually get together and be like, talk about what his dad likes, what he taught him, whatever. His dad could be comfortable talking about him because he could be like, hey, Peyton's my buddy. We could go and talk to the Broncos together. Should be good. Okay, Bears pick again because it's the Panthers at number 3. I got them taking Fashanu, the tackle from Penn State. This guy is not a once in a generation tackle, but he is like a once in every 5 years great offensive tackle. So you drafted Darnell Wright last year. You put Fashanu at left tackle, and then you switch. Darnell Wright, I think, is more comfortable at right tackle, so you have him at right tackle. You have your tackles for the future. You have your wide receivers, at least for now, that are solid. And yeah, then you have Caleb Williams. It's like, all right, we got a starting package of what we need. Because, people talk about Bears defensive culture, all that kind of stuff. Look, do the Bears fans resonate more with defense? Yes. Does their history resonate more with defense? Yes. That doesn't mean you can't build a good offense. These things that are in place. The Ravens were a defensive culture, and then they get Lamar Jackson, who wins an MVP. Now what are they? They're a solid defense, solid offense. I don't really believe in that stuff. I think, like I said, it's what the fans are used to, what they like, but you can build a roster however you want. If you want to win a Super Bowl, it's probably a good idea to start building that offense. You're going to need it. Number 4, I got the Minnesota Vikings taking Drake May, the quarterback from North Carolina. He's been compared to a baby Josh Allen. You would love to take a chance on that upside and go, if he could develop into that, that'd be great. So if I'm the Vikings, if I could get Drake May, then I tell Kirk, look, Kirk, we appreciate everything you did. We're going to let you walk. Have a good one. And then Kirk could go to whoever he'd like. Maybe a team that's more well-equipped to compete right now. And yeah, the Vikings could have a big arm quarterback come in there that's big, can see over the pocket, and maybe not get strip sacked as much as Kirk Cousins. And yeah, and hold on to the ball a little better because Kirk has smaller hands. And yeah, the Vikings, that's all right, we're going to start the rebuild a little bit while still keeping Justin Jefferson. 5th pick, Arizona. Before I was like, maybe you don't take a quarterback, keep Kyler. But if you're number 5 right here, you take Shedeur Sanders and you let Kyler go. You go, hey, man, been fun, but bye. I don't know what Kyler's market would be. I honestly don't think it would be that great. I'm sure someone would give him a shot maybe, but he just doesn't. You have to kind of build an offense around a guy like that. But anyway, I think Shedeur works great at 5. And then 6, Cardinals have, because that was the Texans pick that Arizona is owed. And then Arizona has their own pick. Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia. You give Shedeur Sanders a great weapon from day one. Hey, big, strong target right there, tight end. And start building from there. Start building the pieces. And as far as, once again, people being like, would Shedeur want to take that situation? Look, Jonathan Gannon's showing that people are buying into his system. That defense looks like they got players right there. You got James Conner at running back. If you take Brock Bowers, you got a solid number 1 option, or at least he should be. And now you just need to fill out the wide receiver room. But it's got to start from somewhere. My thing is, any of these positions can be turned into good. The Cardinals, it's not like they haven't had any success in forever. They were in a Super Bowl. I know that was the 2008 season, but 15 years ago they were in a Super Bowl. So it's not like it's been like Browns, Lions, where it's like, hey, it's been 60 years since they've won a championship. 15 years since they've been in a Super Bowl, and then they made the NFC Championship game in 2015, 9 seasons ago, however you want to do it. So it's not like they haven't had any success. I don't think that team is snake bitten. I know the ownership people don't like. I get all that. But for me, yeah, I would take that situation and just make the best of it. Okay, number 7, the Rams. Joe Alt, the tackle from Notre Dame, gigantic dude, 6'8". You put him at left tackle, and I think they got another tackle that they like. You could slide him over, but protect Matthew Stafford's blind side. Big dude, can do everything well, pass block well, run block well. Be perfect for what the Rams need, and another foundational piece of okay, we got that. Now Stafford can have more time. Our run game's going to be better, but we can have more time. I think it's perfect. Even though I want the Rams to succeed, I would love for them to get a pick like that. That'd be perfect for them. Number 8, the Raiders. I got Jared Verse, the edge rusher from Florida State. That guy should be a pros pro from day one, should be effective. I had high hopes for Tyree Wilson. Doesn't look like he's panning out so far. Chandler Jones looks like he's done, where he'll never go back to the Raiders. So I don't know what's going on with there, but they need someone opposite Max Crosby to produce pressure. Seems like that would be a perfect pick, because if you can produce pressure, then your secondary holds up better. Your defense starts allowing less points. Then your offense, it's like, now we don't need to score 28 points to win. Now maybe we score 21, that'll be enough. So important stuff like that people go, oh, the Raiders need help on offense. Look, you would love to take an offensive tackle and guards and all that stuff to constantly protect your line. We're just doing first-round mocks here, but it doesn't always work that way. I mean, you see certain guys you can't pass on. I think Jared Verse, if you're at that position, you got to take him. The Jets, they need a tackle here. I get all that, but the cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry, really good cornerback. I wouldn't pass up on him. So if I'm the Jets, I know Whitehead had a good game one, but I'd probably, you keep Sauce, and then I would go with Kool-Aid on the opposite end, and then you could keep Whitehead as like a slot corner, and or move things around. I mean, you could always try Sauce as like to guard the slot, because I know guarding the slot's a really hard thing to do, but having more help at corner is not a bad thing. And as far as the tackles, you could try to address that later on in the draft. You could try to sign somebody in free agency. It's not just the draft as first round is the only way to do it. Speaking of tackles, though, if this guy were to stay on one more pick, J.C. Latham, the tackle from Alabama, got him going to the Titans at 10. The Titans, if you watch that Cleveland game, they need as much help on the offensive line as they can get. Like I said, Skoronski didn't play. I like him as a guy because he was the best overall rated lineman in the draft, I thought. So yeah, just another piece to help that offensive line. Helps your run blocking, helps your pass blocking. It's just all crucial things that the Titans are struggling with, and everyone wants to be like, Tannehill's the problem. I'm not saying he's the solution to everything. I'm not saying you're winning a Super Bowl with Tannehill, but when you have... It's one thing to be the 49ers, where you go, everything else is in place, we just need to figure out the quarterback's the guy. That's different than all these other teams where it's like, we have multiple holes. So it's not always as simple as just draft a quarterback and start over, and he's the whole reason for you either fail or you succeed. There's other reasons for that, and I think Tannehill, if he has protection and he's got decent weapons, I think he could play borderline top 10 quarterback level. But he can't like rise and above. Like, he can't rise the tides. You would say he can't lift everybody else around him. I don't think Tannehill's that guy. 11. And another thing with the Titans is they've taken 2 quarterbacks in the last 2 drafts. Like, unless one of these top guys just flashes out at you, I don't think you should reach for one. I think you should start building the rest of that roster. The Patriots at 11 take Jerzon Newton, the defensive tackle from Illinois. This guy's been moving up in draft boards. He's been looking impressive. With the Patriots, probably be good to have another Vince Wilfork in there. And I'm not saying this guy's going to be the next Vince Wilfork, but have another guy, because the Patriots probably could use another guy to stop the run. If you watch that Dolphins game from a week ago, they were having a hard time doing that. So, yeah, be a good fit for them. I think Bill loves defense. I think he'd go right along with it. Like I said, if you want a guy that fits, but people just assume the Patriots like stop drafting defense. If you have a solid defense, you can make up for a lot of flaws. And like Mac Jones, he's not an amazing quarterback, but I wouldn't move off him for no reason. Now, if I'm the Patriots and you draft other players in the draft and don't get a quarterback, if Kirk Cousins is available, I'm bringing in Kirk Cousins and saying, Mac, you're either going back to the bench or we're going to move you. But yeah, I'd take Kirk Cousins. Patriots offense, I think, would look a lot better. 12, Chargers, Kalen King, cornerback from Penn State. Clearly, they need help in the secondary. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who's been watching the Chargers. They have a hard time stopping people. And J.C. Jackson, that didn't work out. 13 pick, Jaguars, Rome Odunze, I don't know how you pronounce that name, the wide receiver from Washington. Washington has been putting up Madden numbers lately. Now, he's not in the mock draft, but Michael Penix Jr., I know he came off an injury when he was in Indiana. Now he's in Washington. I root hard for that guy. I think that guy's got a great story, and he's one of my best prospects of who I like. I'm just waiting for other draft experts to kind of acknowledge him. But anyway, the wide receiver from them, bigger receiver, Jacksonville. Look, they have Christian Kirk. They have Calvin Ridley, obviously. But I think Calvin Ridley is best served as a number 2, a great number 2. But he doesn't have the size, I think, to be a great number 1. And Christian Kirk, 2 or 3, I don't know exactly how you put him. They also have Zay Jones. He's okay to me. But get you a true number 1 guy, or at least a guy that you think could play the number 1. I like that. The Giants at 14, Quinn Ewers, the quarterback from Texas. Look, Daniel Jones, I'm not saying you kick him out the door, you keep him, but give him some competition. Get a guy that's better at throwing the football. So I would get Quinn Ewers and go, hey, Daniel, if you're still that guy, you'll beat this guy out and you'll get us back to the playoffs, and that'll be good. If you don't, I'd be looking behind your shoulder. 15, the Bengals, I got him taking Dallas Turner, the edge rusher from Alabama. He's not Will Anderson from what I've heard and what I've seen, but the Bengals, I know they got good edge rushers already, but I think that's something that at this position of the draft, if you're the Bengals, you want to take the best available player. You don't have any gaping holes like your line maybe, but like some of the best linemen have already come and gone, and to take another one would be kind of a reach. So I'd take Dallas Turner. Start building a rotation of edge rushers would be good. And if Sam Hubbard or Trey Hendrickson gets injured, or if one of them needs more money or they're getting older, you can be like, hey, we got another guy right in line for you. If you notice, that's what the Eagles have done with their defensive line, their D tackles, taking Jordan Davis 1 year and then why can't I think of the guy's name? Jalen Carter the next. When Fletcher Cox moves out of there and he retires, they're like, cool, we're set. It's not a bad idea if you're a successful team to be looking ahead in the future and go, hey, even though that position's good right now, wouldn't hurt us to take a top guy right now that we don't reach for, and then when the time comes where he's ready to start, he's been able to learn from the older guys, and then he's ready to step in. 16, the Colts, I got them taking Keon Coleman, the wide receiver from Florida State. Look, they got Michael Pittman, and aside from him, I don't really like their other wide receivers, so I think they need wide receiver. Give Anthony Richardson some more help. 17, I got the Falcons taking the white cornerback Cooper DeJean. Interesting fact with Iowa, the fact that he's white and he's playing well and he's rated as a top 20 player in the draft, kind of unheard of. But the Falcons, I think they could need more help with their corners. Good fit for them, I think. The Texans, because this is from the Browns, this is their pick for the Deshaun Watson train. I got them taking the UCLA edge rusher. I don't know how you pronounce this guy's name. Latu. I don't know how you pronounce that, but Texans get you an edge rusher opposite Will Anderson. That'd be good. The Saints at 19, I got them taking Riley Leonard, the big quarterback from Duke. Good athleticism, got a strong arm. Yeah, I like that pick. Let him sit under Derek Carr. You can even keep Jameis maybe, but let him sit under there, learn. 20, I got Malik Nabers, the wide receiver from LSU. Packers, you got Christian Watson, you got Romeo Doubs. I think another wide receiver to kind of fill out the rest of that room would be good. 21, the Bucs, Jalen McMillan, the wide receiver from Washington. Once again, you got Mike Evans. We don't know if he's going to be around another year. You got Chris Godwin. This guy's a fast guy. Take him. He could be your slot receiver. Maybe re-sign Mike Evans, see what happens. Washington at 22, I got them taking Jordan Morgan, the tackle from Arizona. I think it's very clear the Commanders need a lot of help a bunch of different places, but having a actual solid tackle would probably help because Sam Howell was getting jacked up. I mean, part of the reason he was throwing picks is because he sucks, but another part of the reason was he was getting rushed like crazy. 23, the Lions got them taking Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver from Texas. Jameson Williams, we still don't exactly know what he is. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'd kind of like to see more wide receiver production. Xavier Worthy is supposed to be a really good guy, so I'd take him. Steelers, I got them taking the wide receiver from Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. I saw Kuiper talking about him today, just talking about he's consistent, he's solid. I feel like with the Steelers, they know how to draft wide receivers and develop them. So you got George Pickens, he's your number one. I'm not a Deontay Johnson guy. I think he's okay. I think he gets way more hype than he deserves. But even I think he's out for a while. I think he got placed on IR. But even when he comes back, you could put this guy in the slot, or you could put Deontay Johnson in the slot. Don't know how you want to do that, but in today's day and age in the NFL, with how much you're throwing the ball, it used to be like you could be like, hey, we got two really good receivers. That's all we need. I think now, because of how many times you spread it with three receivers and a tight end, I think it's best to have three really solid guys. That way defenses can't just key in on one guy, whatever. So I think once you hit three, that's when you're like, okay, we probably don't need to draft any more receivers. But yeah, if the guy's there and he's solid and he's good for you, another weapon for Kenny Pickett to look at. And if one guy goes down, you go, hey, we're not completely screwed. So yeah, I'd take him. Seattle at 25, I got them taking Bo Nix, the quarterback from Oregon. Not too far down the road from Oregon, a couple hours drive. I look at it like this way. Bo Nix has seems like he might be a solid quarterback. I know he's been in college forever, but you got him sitting behind Geno, because Drew Lock I'm not really a fan of. I know he went to Mizzou, but I'm not really a fan of him. But if you're Seattle, you can get Bo Nix, let him sit under Geno, learn from Geno, and if Geno, if something happens where play falls off, you're like, well, we're not completely screwed. We got a backup plan. And because honestly with Seattle, I don't think they got a crazy ton of holes in the roster. So if Bo Nix is sitting there, it just kind of gives you insurance in case something happens to Geno. Or, like I said, if Geno gets hurt or starts playing like crap, or I don't know, if he wants too much money, you go, hey, we've been developing Bo Nix. We're ready. 26, the Ravens, I got them taking Chop Robinson, the edge rusher from Penn State. The last couple years, Baltimore's been having to rely on like Justin Houston, which I know he's in Carolina now, but I think they could use some help with the edge rushers. I think their linebackers are solid as far as like guys that actually play the Mike linebacker role, but edge, I think they could probably use a little bit more help. So yeah, I'll take Chop Robinson because at this point in the draft, you're just like, I don't really think you should be drafting for need. You just take the best available player and go, hey, we'll fit you in because these are the better teams in the NFL. So like our culture will fit you in. Cowboys at 27, I got them taking Leonard Taylor III, the defensive tackle from Miami. The Cowboys couldn't stop much of the run this last week against the Cardinals. I'd put his big butt in there and go, hey, we need help. Put you in there, see what you can do. Like I said, with the Cowboys, maybe if a wide receiver was in this range, you could be like, hey, take him. But if they're not available, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can always maybe take better offensive linemen to help with the aging ones because I know Tyron Smith's aging, Zach Martin's aging. But anyway, I'd roll with that. The Bills, Chris Jenkins, the D tackle from Michigan. The Bills, once again, I think they could always use help on the D tackles. Stop the run. With the Chiefs, I would take JT Tuimoloau, I think is how you pronounce his name. That's how I heard Joel Klatt say it, the edge rusher from Ohio State. Look, we got Karlaftis. Chris Jones sometimes lines up on the edge. We took Felix in the first round. Haven't seen much of Felix so far. I would just, if these guys are available and you think they're the best available guy on the board, take him. And until you completely solve that edge rusher position where you're like, yep, solid, we don't need any more help, keep taking these guys, let them learn, let them develop, see which ones click and which ones don't. And, I think that would be a good fit. You got Karlaftis on one end. You could try to fit this guy in, have Felix in as like a guy to alternate, rotate in. I mean, if you can have 3 edge rushers and you can constantly rotate them in and out, that would be great. And obviously you got Chris Jones, which we don't even count him as an edge rusher, but he can be. Then the Dolphins, I got them taken because they did not have a first-round pick this last year. I don't think. Because I know they traded for Chubb and then they lost their own because of the scandal with the tampering and all that stuff. I got them taking Braylon Trice, the edge rusher from Washington. Miami, I know they got Jalen Phillips, I think is the guy's name. He's good. They got Bradley Chubb. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to get another one if you're not having to reach. 31, the 49ers, I got them taking Jack Sawyer, edge rusher from Ohio State, the other edge rusher. I think this would be good. Nick Bosa's an Ohio State guy. I think there'd be a lot of synergy there. Have another guy on the edge. Yeah, I think that, like I said, 49ers don't have a whole lot of holes. So you kind of just take best available player and roll with it. And 32, and this once again goes to that, the next best prospect is Mason Smith, the defensive tackle from LSU. I know you have Jordan Davis. I know you have Jalen Carter. But what have I been saying with all these? Having a rotation, not bad. Fletcher Cox, we don't know how many more years he's got. You would have the best D-line room in the game, like maybe of all time, just getting all these number 1 picks, like first-round picks. Get another guy, once again, gives you insurance for injury, gives you Fletcher Cox protection when he retires or you let him go. And then, like I said, it gives you more protection where maybe if one of these guys become available, what if something happens with Jalen Carter legally? You're good. But take best available player. The Eagles, once again, they don't have a bunch of holes either. Wide receivers are good. Line's good. Quarterback's good. Running back's good. Offense, you're solid. Tight end's good. Defense, you got playmakers everywhere. D-line's solid, but I'm like, just take the best available player. And if you can trade somebody for multiple picks and keep stocking up, do it. So, yeah, I like it. But anyway, that is my first round mock. Happy with this podcast. I know it was long as an hour and a half, but anyway, that's it. I've given you my picks for the week. I will see you next week. I will just be coming at you with the Wiki podcast. Like I said, we'll see if we can get the boys. If not, it'll just be me. But anyway, have a good one.